I'm Robert P. Fitton, and I'm relaxing here after doing a whole bunch of videos about sci-fi promos, synopsis, and other things like that. Now, this particular motif, this background, is excellent. It caught my eye. I looked at a lot of different backgrounds to do for sci-fi, and I didn't want to keep switching views every time I went from Triton to Mars. I wanted one specific background. When I saw this, your mind starts going in different places. You can be high above the clouds, like in that Star Trek, where they're up in the cities in the clouds, and you can imagine any type of science fiction that way. Or you could be, as one of my friends said, on Mars and please Ray Bradbury. So I like this background, and it's modern enough where it could even be on Earth. I like to imagine it, whichever book I'm looking at, whichever book I'm talking about, this seems to fit the bill. The other thing I wanted to talk about this afternoon was devices that are used in not just my science fiction books, but science fiction books that you might see anywhere. Devices can come in all shapes and sizes, and they can be manufactured to do just about anything. One of the things that I learned very early was from Isaac Asimov in The Craft of Science Fiction. If you don't know anything about how a device works, the science of it, then don't start talking about it. Don't start making it up that way. What you do is you have people that are in the environment accepting whatever it is. And that's what I've done in my most of my books. Sometimes I have the science described. If I'm with Harry Cobb on Mars, you got the domes and the wonderful Livingston Dome on Mars, and how mankind has reached out and started living on the surface of Mars, which isn't too far away, at least the first journey to Mars. So you use that, everybody accepts it. You don't go around saying, well, I have this motor here and it works because of, and people don't talk like that. At least I don't think they do. So I like that. And the Harry Cobb especially, is good because it's a couple of hundred years in the future. So you have things going on there that are readily accepted, like space travel. You're zipping from Orbitus, which is a colony contained in itself inside the solar system and floating around where people live, and you get on a shuttle and you're over on Mars. And it's just like us driving a car. You get in the car and you're driving to California, or you're driving to Texas, and you don't think twice about it. But if it were a few hundred years ago and you were telling people about that, they'd say, whoa, yeah, sure, it sounds like it's good. Well, also on Mars, I've got terrestrial vehicles that don't seem to leak, into the atmosphere, and they work against radiation, and all these things are taken care of. You don't want to have complicating problems. However, in the beginning of the Harry Cobb book on Mars, you have Jason Rapp being killed by a pinpoint pulsar, where that is exactly what happens. His T vehicle, or his T suit, is ripped open because his whole vehicle is ripped by this pulsar. Somebody murders him. So you still have the environment that can be very destructive on that. I love creating these different places, and when you're writing, as a writer, you actually, if you really get into what you're doing, it's like you're almost there. It's absolutely incredible. And I did use Edgar Rice Burroughs, his calling Mars Barsoom, and I used that to name a dome where Harry Cobb goes with Ariana in the beginning of the book, and reflects back on where he was 10 years ago in that same dome with Ariana. So, and you have a little adventure there, let's say, and you also have a little danger that happens with that. Now, when we go to the ice of Triton, you're even further out in the solar system. It's a moon of Neptune. So you got the big planet Neptune in the sky, and then you have the freezing cold temperatures of Triton. So you have many different types of ice there, but the main thing, it is so cold. And again, you have self-enclosed areas, which are commonplace. People don't think twice about it. And you have communications that are faster than light, so you can instantaneously communicate with somebody who's far away across the solar system. Don't ask me how to do that. I guess there are certain ways you could burrow underneath into the quantum foam or something like that, but that's fine. We don't want to get into an encyclopedia. We want to have a story here. Sojourn is a little bit different. Sojourn is what I was thinking about when I was in California. How to travel between planets if you were some ancient civilization. How would you do that? And that is the intergalactic passageway. And when I made it to Cape Cod here, looking out over the ocean, I visualized it so strongly. It was very easy to write it. And in the early 80s into mid 80s, I did write it. Now, what it really does, and I do mention this, it shrinks the space between the planets, and there's energy down below. So if you fall over the edge of one of these things, you know, you're gone. You're gone. It's all over. So you just want to be in your boat, be secure, and also time's a little bit warped. And Tom Loftus can see with his buddy Zach several of his other compadres moving along through the intergalactic passageway, but in another time. So it's all mixed up that way with the energy and the time readings, which is pretty cool too. When I got back to Massachusetts, I started thinking about a religion that seeped through the ages, and I tied that in with what Tom Loftus was feeling in the present. And he would have these dreams, these deep dreams of the Tabun Shah and the Mantari people, and they turned out to be real. And they are real after he crosses the intergalactic passageway and is in those other areas. Some of these readings from the book come from thousands of years past, but they are all prophecy that comes true. And Loftus ends up being in a position where he becomes the awaited one for this civilization that is about to fail. In the end, Loftus fights the Creods, specifically the sadistic, the brutal, the murderous Sard. This is a lot better on audio. But Sard is the villain in the book. Sard is the one who confronts Loftus at the end, and Sard is the one who the Creod civilization is out to destroy all inferiors, which would be humanity. And in the end, Loftus and Sard are high above a pool that goes down with that same type of energy that's in the intergalactic passageway, except where does it end up? Yeah, well, I'm not going to mention that, but somebody does fall in there. But the upper realities is a very unique concept. It's almost like saying that God is in an upper reality, but in the particular book, there are people who have died in Loftus's life that are in that upper reality. And I was visualizing my time at Yosemite up on the granite monoliths overlooking that entire valley, and that's what came to my mind. And it's a pretty good thought as far as upper realities go. The other thing, when we're really getting into devices and everything like that, when I'm thinking about the Galactic Command series, I've got a spaceship. I'm obviously influenced by Star Trek, which I loved as a kid, but this is different. I've tried to make it different, but I wanted to have the simplicity and of the things that happen there, and not get into real complicated, twisted plots with energy levels that just don't make sense. And I do explain how the Eldridge coils in that vessel take space like an elastic and move the ship forward. That's an explanation. It's not a very good scientific one, but it seems to suffice for the story, and it sounds good for the particular vessel that we're talking about. And also, there's a ambient room there, which I came up with before even watching any other type of series on that. So I didn't feel like I was copying anything, where you could go into another time in your life or another reality, and it manufactures that. And Loftus goes back to the center of his particular religion, which is the top of a mountain, which I have gone up to many times during my last 50 years or so of going up to that area. And I'd go up to the top and look down. And I've seen it from a distance, from a higher peak. And it does, like, some of the Native American legends and shamans, it focalizes everything that is in your life and what is important to you. At least it did for me the many times I've gone up there. In the other part of Galactic Command, of course, is Saul. Now, Saul is a very aggravating character, and he talks in reverse language and everything like that. He's part cyborg. I call him Cyvac, and he's out there with these gasoline-powered engines and lead bullets, and takes on Ross and his father, John Ross. And he also has the ability, Saul also has the ability to dearth the planet, which means he just annihilates all life. And again, I don't get into particulars on how he constructed that type of technology, but be rest assured he can use it and tries to against Commander John Ross. So those are just a few of the things that I was using when I was doing those synopses. But I'll tell you, I wish I was high above in the Cloud City in this particular venue, looking down over an expanse, because I certainly could gain some grasp on reality, I think, by looking down from high above like this. And I love the openness of this particular background, and it also has windows that span at an angle. So that's it from here. The sci-fi synopses are done, and I'll be turning to some other work and some of the stuff I've been working on going forward. This is Robert P. Fitton. Au revoir.